So once again this week we have the opportunity to speak about two parshiyos, and two parshiyos for the price of one. Last week and this week. Next week we'll have a 1 week break, and then the week after that once again two parshiyos. This week and this year, out of the two parshiyos, we try to alternate whether we speak about Parshas Acharei, Parshas Kedoshim. This year we're going to speak about Parshas Kedoshim. It's a very interesting pasuk in this week's parsha. And the pasuk tells us, S.S.S.S tishmoiru. My Shabbosos, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is saying, my Shabbosos tishmoiru, umikdashi tiro ani Hashem. And we see something very, very interesting about this pasuk. Because the Torah uses a lashon, a plural lashon, S.S.S.S. Last time I checked, or last time anybody checked, there's only one Shabbos every week. Shabbos comes out after Friday, and it's the only Shabbos of the week. And yet the Torah tells us, S.S.S.S tishmoiru. A plural lashon, two Shabbosos. So Nesivos Shalom tells us that these two Shabbosos are referring to something very specific. Obviously, it's talking about one Shabbos. There's only one Shabbos every week. But it refers to two different aspects and two different themes of every Shabbos. There is the Shabbos of Zikaron L'Masei Bereshis, and then there's the Shabbos of Zeichel Yetzias Mitzrayim. And the Nesivos Shalom tells us that these are two very, very different parts of Shabbos. Now, as you all know, we say both of these things in Kiddush. We mention both parts of the Shabbos and the Kiddush every Friday night. We say Zeichel Yetzias Mitzrayim, and before that we say Zikaron L'Masei Bereshis. So really, what do these two aspects and characteristics of Shabbos teach us? If we're saying that it's S.S.S.S, there's two very important parts of Shabbos, two very different parts of Shabbos, what do these two different parts of Shabbos come to teach us? So Nesivos Shalom brings down from the Orach Chaim HaKadosh in Parshas Bereshis. And we know in Parshas Bereshis, where we're speaking about the creation of the world, Orach Chaim HaKadosh tells us about Zikaron L'Masei Bereshis, and he speaks about that in Parshas Bereshis. And he says like this: it's important for everybody to know that when HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world was really created for 6 days. That's it. The world was created through Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, for 6 days. And after the 6 days passed by, the world was actually, is the Orach Chaim HaKadosh speaking, not me. He said the world was actually supposed to revert back to its state of nothingness. It's supposed to revert back to the way the world was pre-creation. But yet HaKadosh Baruch Hu went ahead and did something else. You know what HaKadosh Baruch Hu did? Hashem went ahead and He created a Shabbos. He created a day known as Shabbos. And this day of Shabbos breathes new life into the creation every single week. And it gives the Bria, gives the creation the ability to stop and go ahead and start again for another 6 days. And this cycle repeats itself every single week. There is the Bria, there's the creation that we have the world of Sunday through Friday. But then comes along Shabbos Kodesh, and Shabbos gives the world the capacity and the ability, the driving force behind this special koyach of Shabbos gives the world another 6 days of life. And what gives it the 6 days of life? What actually makes the Shabbos so special? The Orach Chaim HaKadosh tells us, you know which part of Shabbos gives the entire world the ability to stand for another 6 days? That is the fact that there are people in the world who are being Shomer Shabbos. There are people in the world who are keeping Shabbos, and it is that when sometimes you tell a person, you know, you're keeping the world up. You're making the world go around. You're making the world go for another 6 days. Or Chaim HaKadosh tells us that this is a very, very real thing, because by you, a person keeping Shabbos, you are preventing the world from going back to what it was before the creation, to Sayu Vavayu, and you're giving the world another 6 days of life, that now Shabbos passes and the world has the ability to keep going, and that is Zikaron L'Masei Bereshis. Just like, we say it in Kiddush, just like it was in the original week of Sheshes Yemei Bereshis. Just like then, the world was created for 6 days and would have destructed had there not been a creation of Shabbos. So every week is a Zikaron L'Masei Bereshis. It's a remembrance, it's a commemoration of the same way that first Shabbos worked. That is the way Shabbos works today. Tomorrow night, when we go and we keep Shabbos, and we keep the halachas of Shabbos, and besides halachas of Shabbos, we keep Shabbos where we're different people on Shabbos. We treat Shabbos the way Shabbos is meant to be kept, with the Zohar, with the Shamar. We have Zikaron L'Masei Bereshis. And that is how Shabbos reminds us of the Shabbos of creation. And then we have the second part of Shabbos. We have the part of Shabbos that we know, we mentioned, Zecher L'Tzias Mitzrayim. The part of Shabbos, what happened by Yitzias Mitzrayim? By Yitzias Mitzrayim there was a Geula. And every Shabbos, besides remembering and commemorating the Shabbos of creation, we have Zecher L'Tzias Mitzrayim, where there is a Shabbos, where every single Shabbos brings Geula to the world. The 6 days of the week are like a Golus. Like a person is in Golus, where it's a Golus and a darkness. And every Shabbos comes along, and it's like there's a Yitzias Mitzrayim, where you're able to go from darkness to Geula every single Shabbos. And with these two aspects of Shabbos, says in the Nesivos Shalom, they apply not only to the world, but they apply to every person individually also. When we say it in Kiddush, when we say it on Friday night, we have to remember that it's something that we should really, really think about. When we say Zikaron L'Masei Bereshis, it tells us that just like the world gets a new lease on life, so too every individual has the opportunity every Shabbos to get a new lease on life, to renew ourselves, to be better people every Shabbos. And just like each day has its own characteristic of renewal, like we say in davening every day, HaMechadesh B'Tuvoi B'Chol Yom Tomid Masei Bereshis. Every day, Hashem, so to speak, recreates the world, and it renews the world every day. But if every day has that capacity, and Hashem does it every day, imagine what it is on Shabbos. On Shabbos, we have even greater capacity to renew. So if your midos weren't so good that week, if you didn't treat your fellow Jew, you didn't treat the people around you, you weren't treating them good enough, well enough, you weren't doing the right things as far as being a good person on every Shabbos, you have that ability to renew yourself. On Shabbos, you can become a new person. And the very day of Shabbos gives you the opportunity to change, and even without the proper tshuva. Shabbos itself is a day of change. And the Ramban asks a very, very interesting question. The Ramban asks, why by Musaf of Shabbos, when we daven Musaf, you'll notice, and when there were Kabbanos on Shabbos, by Musaf on Shabbos, we don't have a soyer for a chatas. You know, when we daven, you'll see in the S.S.S. by Rosh Chodesh, by the S.S.S. of Yontif, you always say a soyer lechatas. Why on Shabbos, when you have the Musaf of Shabbos, do we not have a soyer lechatas? And Nesivos Shalom says a beautiful, beautiful answer on this question of the Ramban. And he says the following. He says, you know why you don't have a soyer lechaper? You don't have a soyer for a chatos on Shabbos? He says, because when it comes to Shabbos, it's not the same person. If a person did something during the week, so you would, only if Shabbos, then that person would have to bring a soyer lechatos. But like we just said, when a person comes to Shabbos, you're a different person. You're a changed person. You're a totally different Bria on Shabbos. So therefore, there is no soyer lechatas. There is no soyer lechater in the musaf of Shabbos. And then we also have, besides that, we also, like we said, we have the Zeichel Etzias Mitzrayim. That even if you don't totally become a new person, and you don't think about it enough, there's still a geula where you can take yourself out of your matzav and change and be a different person. You could reach such high madregas on Shabbos where we look at it as a geula, where you left your matzav where you were during the week and you have geula. So the pasuk tells us at the beginning of the pasuk tells us actually in Parshas Kedoshim. The pasuk tells us as Shabsosai Tishmoiru, two Shabbosais, both aspects of Shabbos, and we have to remember that this as Shabsosai applies to each and every one of us as individuals. And we come to a Shabbos and we say it in Kiddush on Friday night. We have to think about it. We have to think about it when we say Zikaroim Ma'aseh Bereshis, and when we say Zeichel Etzias Mitzrayim, that on Shabbos we have an opportunity to become so much better people. If we spend our Shabbos not just sleeping from morning to night, if we spend our Shabbos not just thinking how many pieces of challah we could stick and dip and put it into so many dips, if that is not the focus of your Shabbos, if that's the focus of your Shabbos, then you miss the boat. But if your focus of your Shabbos, of course, you're supposed to delight in the Shabbos and have delicious foods. And you're supposed to be able to relax, menucha on Shabbos. You're supposed to be able to talk to people. You're supposed to be able to think without all the distractions of the week. But the focus of Shabbos has to be Zikaron L'Masei V'Reishis, Zeichel Etzias Mitzrayim. We're different people. We have to act differently on Shabbos. We have to treat our children differently. We have to talk to the people around us differently because we're not the same people that we were a whole week. As Shabsosai Tishmoiru, two different Shabbosais, and we need to remember and start thinking about that lesson tomorrow night when we come to Shabbos.